absolute honor. This is first HoHo Show of 2017. Headliner tonight, Rise Against, Tim McIlrath from Rise Against. Absolute pleasure to meet you, man.
Good to be here, yeah.
So, okay, a couple of things that I wanted to ask you about, but I think I'm going to kind of start on the serious side of things, if that's all right with you.
Let's do
it. It is an unbelievable time in our country politically. Some people would maybe not say that it's a sad time politically, but I think that it's one of the lowest points that I can ever remember.
Yeah.
As somebody that is keeping track of what's going on in the world, like I know you guys do, sometimes myself I get so frustrated with just the daily just punch in the face of it all that I kind of want to back away from it. How do you consume the news that's out there, and do you ever get that feeling like when you're reading like Twitter or Facebook or something like, God, I feel like I got punched in the face just trying to get through the news of the day?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's so overwhelming, and you're like, we live in such a tumultuous time right now, especially in American history. And for a band like us who've been plugging away this for like 18 years and singing about the ills of society and singing about things where places where we find injustice, we want to like, put water where the fire is. That's kind of what we do. And so to have all these ideas that we thought made such progress on, I feel like racism and sexism and homophobia and xenophobia, and I feel like all that stuff kind of has come to rear its ugly head back again. And in this administration has such a permissive culture around all those ideas, which is sad. It lets you know and it reminds you that the monsters of racism and sexism don't ever really go away.
No.
We put them behind bars, but they find their way out. If we don't constantly maintain that visibility on those issues. And so it's interesting, as a band that's been trying to rile people up for 18 years, I'm excited to see people riled up.
Sure.
I don't care that if it wasn't Rise Against to do it. I don't care what did it.
Right.
And certainly this election did it. So I get to see a lot of people who have opened their eyes, a lot of people who have traditionally buried their head in the sand, who have now come out and said, I gotta be more engaged, I have to speak up when I hear something that's wrong. I see what happens now when good people stay silent, And so we've been a band through 4 different presidential administrations, so we also realize that a lot of the problems with this administration, are just symptoms of a bigger disease. There's an ideology that fuels administrations like this one, and the ideology is something that we like to attack. It's more effective to treat the disease than just to be constantly treating the symptoms.
Now I'm 41, and when the undercurrent, this is kind of a crazy, like when the undercurrent of racism started to sort of peak back up kind of and became sort of acceptable in the last couple of years, or what, not acceptable, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, did it all shock you? It shocked me because
Absolutely,
I thought I was like, this is still happening? Like we're really going backwards. So it really still took me a while to go like, it's really like this now, huh?
Right. And to have, I think that, I think all of us are aware enough to know that racism never really went away. It certainly has existed. And then there are parts of the country that keep it kind of politely under their hat,
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this kind of brazen attitude towards it, where it was this kind of unashamed, unapologetic racism, and this, which was really kind of like a dismissal of our history as a country. You can't erase the history of our country. You can't erase. There are beautiful parts of this country and there's ugly parts of this country, and you can't erase the ugly. You need to acknowledge it.
Sure.
And that's how we become proud of where we live, is when we can reconcile our history. But if you choose to forget our history or conveniently ignore it, then that takes you down a really strange path, and a really wrong path. So that's something, like I said, it's all about visibility and transparency and constantly talking about these things. And and you talk about how do you keep your head up in this era, and I feel like I'm lucky to walk on these stages like we will tonight, and I see hope in the eyes of every single one of those audience members. Like, I see people who they're fired up and they want things to happen. They want to put their hands on the steering wheel of history, and they want to affect its direction, and that encourages me. So when I go to bed, it's like there were a lot of good people in that audience tonight, and that makes me happy.
How did you get to be this way not necessarily politically, but how did you get that sort of bug? With mom and dad? Did it come in after the fact? Was it a band? What was it?
I mean, definitely, like, my parents were Republican. They voted Republican. My family was not political in any way, shape, or form. We didn't talk about politics. You know, like, I didn't know the difference between a Democrat or Republican until I was well into my teens, you know. The music definitely hit me hard, but then music that had a message to it hit me even harder, you know. I feel like I was raised, like a lot of my friends, in a pretty sheltered world where everything was kind of Pleasantville and you just believed that it was all good, you know. And I learned later on that a lot of my existence exists on the backs of other people. And then I thought, well, if I'm being lied to about that, or if I'm being at least having information withheld about that, what else is being withheld from me? And it created this appetite to find out, you know, what's going on in the world, how it works, and where do I fit into it. And so the band just grew out of that, I guess. It wasn't like a conscious decision. This was the only way I knew how to do it.
Sure. With the proximity to Chicago, I would assume St. Louis was probably one of the first spots that you guys kind of branched out. And I feel like I've seen you at tons of different venues here. Do you remember the first couple times you came through?
First time's probably Creepy Crawl.
Yeah. I wondered if you had done a Creepy Crawl show.
First, second, third, fourth, and fifth were probably all Creepy Crawl, realistically, yeah.
That is one of the few venues that I've ever been to that legitimately still frightens me 20 years after the fact. But it was a great room to see a show.
It's one of those venues that, like, Hollywood is always trying to recreate somewhere, but it exists and it's there, and so that was a fun place to play. It just that kind of grimy punk vibe, just like a room like that should be like. It was amazing.
Absolutely, I love the rooms that have a little bit of that to it.
Totally,
I saw you guys just got off the road, and I was not a huge fan of this band until very recently, but I just got the split of Direct Hit and Pairs. And whoa, man! First of all, it's just great all the way around. But you took Pairs with you to Europe not very long ago, right? With Sleeping with Sirens.
Yeah.
When you are getting ready to go out on a run like that, tell me how your openers work, because I know at this point you guys pick who you want to pick. Do you have a relationship with the guys already? Do you quite simply just go see them and go, they're awesome, if they're available, let's get them going? Like, how does that sort of work?
It's different with all bands we take out. With that band specifically, it was a combination of them being on Fat Records, that's where we got our start, from Fat. So the Fat families were important to us. Fat gave us all of our first big breaks. And so I feel like we definitely owe allegiance to them. Then Zach and Joe met the Pairs guys at some shows when they rolled through town, and they introduced them to me. We just liked the music as well. The kids were cool, and everyone kind of vouched for them as like, this is a real band. These guys are good guys.
Sure.
And we were looking for an excuse to take them out, and that one popped up. So it was great. We did like 4 weeks in Europe with them. Couldn't have been nicer guys, and just a great band.
Is it weird for you to hear yourself at this point in your life call them kids? You know what I mean?
I know, I probably, the people that are opening for us are oftentimes so much younger than me.
Right,
you know
sure,
what I mean? So it's like, I was like, oh yeah. Like.
Well, you know, Tim, I honestly feel like I could talk to you for forever. I'm, again, such a big fan of the band, and I got to tell you, my wife and I, a couple years ago, finally got around to watching the documentary, the Punk Rock Dad documentary, and I thought your little part in that was so absolutely sweet, and there's just, you're just one of those bands, man, that I will absolutely always follow, go see, buy music. I thank you for what you do, and it's an absolute honor to be able to talk to you today.
Thank you, and thanks for all your guys' support, and we have amazing fans here in St. Louis. We have ever since the Creepy Crawl days, and so we always look forward to coming here.
Well, great. Tim McIlrath from Rise Against, Backstage, HoHo Show #1.